woods as he goes into the Lost Woods.
Yeah, in my earlier days, I would sometimes try to set up a tier 2 or 3 tier tree pole after getting the tier 1, but that takes a lot of time and I don't do it anymore. And especially when you know tier 1 is bombs, why not just get that?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Bombs early are such a hot commodity, right? So we're hoping, usually in your beginning seeds, you're hoping for bombs early. And also, we see a glove in Lost Woods, so really nice to get that early glove. Hopefully, our runners will remember to use that to their advantage and maybe look at potentially back of escape early.
Yeah, nice quick 3-item check in a keys mode. You expect you could find just about anything there, and what you're hoping is it doesn't go compass, compass, compass.
I mean, this is keys. That could totally happen. Or dungeon map, and another dungeon map.
Well, at least the dungeon maps might tell you which dungeons you actually want to head for if you want to get into GT mode later.
Yeah, this mode has seen a lot of interesting things where you might have to go into GT to get your progression to finish the seed. So it's going to be this mode's very interesting for that.
Certainly sounds like AD keys to me. Vex, first of our 2 runners here into the village, and Kuchiri is going to be following right along behind. Blind's hideout hasn't been too interesting until we see that literacy in check number 4.
Nice to get the ability to read early.
One of a handful of things you'll need to deal with Desert Palace. Of course, the glove already on the hands of our runners is another one of them. Need a fire source as well, and maybe some boots. Of course, being a keys mode, you're also going to need some keys before you go in there. Though, theoretically, they could be in there. Nothing preventing it.
No, not at all. Although it would be nice to maybe you're right, maybe to find the desert small if they do decide to go to desert, so that they have a little bit more density in there. But we'll see what they find.
Kakariko well paying out reasonably well. We have the bug catching net. You can bottle some fairies with that later once you've got a bottle to your name. And the hook shot.
I see Vex here playing it smart just to get these 5 rupees here from the well, just to pay the bottle merchant for that there. Very a very heads up play by Vex there. And getting rewarded with a 300% return on investment.
Yeah, it's nice when the bottle merchant is not a scam, but, here we are.
Oh, we see the moon pearl in the back of the tavern here. Perfect timing for these two here. So we need a hammer for Dark World access, or even mitts for Dark World access at this point.
Yeah, it's a solid spot to be in. Now, really the question is, with a glove and the hook shot, do you want to just go ahead and sequence break the mountain? You can do a whole bunch of stuff up on the mountain, and probably all you're missing is the lamp.
Yeah, and it seems like the lamp might just be, voluntary versus needed.
And if you get up there and you find the lamp, well, you know that you should really be searching around down in the lower world for your flute. Nice to get a relatively early sword here. Both of our runners going to have that in hand within the next couple of seconds.
Yeah, early sword really helps a lot in this beginning part of the seed.
And we've got both Vex and Kuchiri with the save and quit to Sank, likely to see this backup escape play from both runners.
Yeah, a very quick heads up choice here. Get it out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the seed. It makes a lot of sense here.
And that's the kind of thing you're looking for. There is the flute.
A very good find that Vex has found, and then Kuchiri will be right behind there.
And it looks like Kuchiri getting a little more information. The rodents are in the bomb pack.
Interesting to see where Vex is going here. I wonder where he's heading for, what he's heading for right now.
I guess he's just going to turn the flute on from this direction.
Yeah, that seems to be the case here. It's very a very different, I guess, a different way to go to Kakariko Village, but an effective one nonetheless.
We're seeing a lot of good hookshot movement out of Vex here. Taking a great deal of advantage of the hookshot.
Absolutely, that hook shot, grabs many things in this game, and it seems to be that Vex is using that to his advantage at this point.
Again, these runners seem to have the same basic idea. Within a handful of seconds of each other, both of them have this flute activation, and away they go. Vex off to the 7th spot where he can check the dam.
Kuchiri deciding to get information here and actually making the play into desert. An interesting choice, but you know what? It might give him some information early on.
Find out one of the items that's tucked away behind boots, and with the glove, I guess you could steal the key from the back and go over and check the right side if you really wanted to, while Vex has found a sunken old sword, maybe a little rusty.
No, the Master Sword never rusts. Never, no rust on the Master Sword. Maybe the Fighter Sword, but not so much this one.
We've seen the stun prize from both runners now. It is just that single green rupee, a vanilla stun prize. How unfortunate.
And on the torch for desert, you saw the red boomerang. So it doesn't seem like that is going to be very effective at this point.
Seems to be a fairly red palace so far. Red boomerang, red 20.
And I think Kuchiri's plan is probably to go do Agina here, which makes a lot of sense. You're already in the desert area. You might as well go check it since you're here.
Yeah, entirely reasonable, and I think about the most interesting thing that Vex found there in Mini Moldorm Cave was that second 3 hundo of the seed.
Absolutely, and with with Zora and Logic, that will because of that glove, that will help Vex get to the fish there, and hopefully get something of use.
Just another 20 in the closet of everybody's second favorite elder. Agina just the one item and a little further out of the way than Sahasrahla.
You weren't kidding about it being a red palace, and now it's a red desert area.
Continuing along the path of divergence, Kuchiri has decided to flute to 1 is going to go ahead and rescue the old man in the dark here, while Vex is going to fake flipper, so we've got a little out of logic play from both of our runners right here.
And as we see on the highlight island there, we have another 300 rupees. So I think we're pretty set for the money of the seed so far. If our runners do choose to grab that, I'm sure they will not, unless they are in a serious pickle with the money.
Yeah, 600 enough to get by on for now. By the time you have flippers and mirror later, if you really need another 3 hundo, you know where you can go get it.
And now we
Well,
see
now
our yeah. Sorry, BNDM. Yeah. Now we see our first key. Misery Mire big.
Misery Mire big, but what I was having a chuckle about was the out of logic 300 rupees that Vex pulled off of the old man under the bridge.
Sometimes you just gotta go out of logic and get some extra rupees.
927 really will get the job done. You can pay off the Zora Lord, you've already paid the Bottle Vendor, you can get into Palace of Darkness, you can play the chest game, you can play the digging game. You may not have enough left over to also do Big Bomb and get into Pod, but, you know, you'll find another 100 rupees somewhere.
Looking on the side of Kuchiri there, we have the lamp inside of Spec Rock. So a very interesting find there. First fire source.
First fire source, and of course we've already got the flute, so we know exactly what the intended progression was. Use the flute to go get this. Now you have to start thinking, was that mire big something that I should be paying more attention to? Because that's behind the lamp, and we just found the lamp bright and early.
Unfortunate for Vex there as well as the unfortunate side effect of doing the one chest first. It unfortunately had to make Vex go out and kicked him out of that water walk state, so he had to go back in and do that again.
Yeah, that's kind of the life of fake flippering into the waterfall cave. It seems like no matter which one of those chests you pick first, it's always the piece of heart that refills you. See about the old scam master here. We don't know if it's a scam or not. We have a fruit from the fish.
Early mushroom, interesting. I'd be curious to see if Vex decides to go get that turned in early because of the flute.
And Kuchiri in Paradox Cave, the two-chest portion, finds a big key to Ice Palace.
There's another sword in the bottom of Paradox, and the Cane of Samaria. Wow, Kuchiri finding some stuff very, very early here. So getting that early, getting all the early stuff. So got a little bit of a lead there ahead on Vex getting all of that.
Yeah, the thing about the Cane of Samaria is it doesn't really do anything to change dungeons in the Light World. It's all the Dark World dungeons that it just breaks to varying degrees. You can hold down switches in Pod and Skull Woods, you can diver down in Swamp Palace. If you've got the boots, you could Pog Clip and Pod with it too. Icebreaker in Ice, of course, and then the technical good old-fashioned logical requirements in Mire and Turtle Rock. And if it really needed to be better, you can use it to fight blind. Of course, when you've got 2 or 3 swords already, you're unlikely to do that, but it can be used that way.
I mean, it's a good little bit of an extra hit if you feel like you're a little worried about your sword clinking off or getting a spin in there versus maybe you use that as the helper. So nice thing for Vex here is when he does climb the mountain, he'll have tempered. So that'll be a nice touch for Vex.
Yeah, that will be nice, but we've seen Light Mountain from Kuchiri at this point, aside from, of course, the Tower of Hera and the Ether Tablet, which he could not access with no hammer and no mirror. But the question is becoming, where is our Dark World access going to come from? Are we really expecting Aga all of a sudden? That's what we have.
We still have a few things left here. We have the first few checks of Eastern, and now with the lamp, we have that check in the big vanilla big key chest in Logic as well. So we've got a few options here, and then we've also got in Logic the first chest of Escape since they don't have the Hyrule Castle key, from what I understand.
Yeah, logically, and then illogically, they can go do the rest of it because, well, it's there and they're there, and that key is not hugely required when you've used glove to get into the back. It's just
Absolutely agree.
bearing in mind the things you find there, the game doesn't necessarily technically think you're going to have just yet. So we're going to have our runners kind of retracing each other's footsteps here for a hot minute. Uh, Aaron, tell me, what was game one in this series? Who played in it for both your team, the Rando Babies, and for Kuchiri's team, Always Sunny and Pendant Pod?
Yeah, so game one was actually myself versus NY Rambler, also known as Rambler as most, and a very, very tight matchup between the two of us. Rambler being a very, very good racer and happened to make the bracket stage of the main tournament this past main tournament, and myself coming off of the mentor tournament, and I actually was able to beat Rambler by just, I believe, under 3 minutes. It wasn't, I don't believe it was over 3 minutes. Either way, Rambler is a very good opponent. It was very, very close. GG's again to Rambler. And also, just I want to point out, congratulations to Rambler. He's getting married this weekend. And so, congrats to Rambler and the soon to be Mrs. Rambler.
Indeed, congratulations to them. Alright, it looks like Vex is going to be up on the mountain for another hot minute or two here, while Kuchiri is going to have a quick look at the maps. We had Crystal at Eastern Palace, I think that was a Crystal at Desert as well.
I'll see if I can confirm that for you while we see Vex go through and do the rest of the mountain here.
And Kuchiri's going to get over here into the eastern area. It looks like we'll get at least a play into Saha's closet, find out what's what there. Maybe we could get some green pendant information too if he's feeling so inclined. There it is. Tower of Hera green pendant today.
The nice thing about these forms of AD/FAD keys is that it really doesn't completely matter what dungeon is the green pendant. You're gonna have to do it anyways. So it's nice for knowing, when you get it, you can go to Saha. But however, in this mode, we're just thinking, hey, go, 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 right?
Yeah, by the same token, it can be nice to know there's an extra item attached to this dungeon if I want to go get it done relatively early. Looks like we're getting a front of escape play from Kuchiri here.
Yeah, and a very smart choice to go to the back to Dark Cross first. I actually really like this choice because then basically you take a Death Warp and then you go back to the front of escape, or if you decide to do the Aga play.
Yeah, feels reasonable either way. This is perfectly acceptable as far as I can tell. Again, one of those things that may be more or less logical depending on the placement of that Hyrule Castle small. Speaking of small keys, the small key to pod there.
A good early find there. Always nice to have some pod keys before we get to the Dark World.
Particularly since we're inching ever closer to having that pod access as part of our Dark World care package if we go through Aga. Having a key or two for it, not the worst thing in the world.
So Kuchiri deciding to make the looks like the Aga Tower play, or maybe just to set up the Death Warp. Ah, okay. That makes a little bit of sense there. I understand that.
That's a good heads-up play there by Kuchiri. Another pod small. The suspicions grow.
Interesting, and these are both the in logic pod smalls. So anything now past that chest right there is going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that'll be out of logic. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out now.
Yeah, the game would now expect you to have the Hyrule Castle small because you could take it and go to the back. Looks like neither of our runners are really interested in Eastern trying to spare themselves the double dip. I don't know that that works out all that well in all dungeons keys modes. It kind of feels like double dip dungeons the mode to me. But, you know, here we are. They're the ones playing.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is that learning this mode, I kind of got used to being okay with double dipping dungeons. You didn't feel as bad doing it. Now, obviously, if you're doing something, let's say you're doing pod and you have to double dip pod because it is very quick, or very like long. I'm sorry, the pod is not quick. You know, needing to go through pod again and again is an unfortunate feeling. However, uh, in something like this, it never hurts.
Kuchiri pulling a small key to Turtle Rock there out of Zelda's cell down in the basement. Definitely not something that he needs to be concerned with immediately, but you'd rather have it than not.
So yeah, it seems like our runners are gonna very well avoid the Eastern play altogether, and we'll just have to see how that works out. Maybe they leave a hammer in there, maybe leave their mitts in there. We don't know yet. We won't know until we see what happens.
Yeah, what gets more dangerous is when you've left something behind that you can get away with without for a little while, but that makes routing a lot easier, like, say, a mirror.
Absolutely. The only nice thing about this being in all dungeons or like a fad keys is that this is hard required anyways, so it's not that big of a deal if you happen to, do this first versus anything else. And yes, to confirm your suspicions there, BNDM, we have a Eastern and Desert Crystal there with with Hera green pendant.
And I think really the gap we're seeing between our two runners at the moment is that Vex went and did some out of logic fake flipperage while Kuchiri did not.
Yeah, that seems to be the difference early right now, as you can kind of tell with Kuchiri going in through Aga Tower and doing a pretty good job of it, except for the just making some having some guards be a bit of a problem in the maze there, but otherwise fairly good.
Yeah, Tempered Sword, not really what the game expected you to have when you got in here in vanilla. It does quite a bit of damage, and these guards are just not meant to stand up to it. But I suppose that we could play a little guessing game since Kuchiri is about to fight Aga 1. How many blue balls do you think we're going to get today?
So everybody knows the standard in vanilla is, or the typical odds-on favorite in vanilla is 3.
Yep, the first shot of every round guaranteed reflectable. After that, you are flipping coins. So far, we do have one.
And we lose another 50-50 with a second.
Feels like once you get started losing those 50-50s, they just keep going terribly. Now, the The saving grace of this for Kuchiri is he knows that VeXtopher is going to get exactly the same RNG here, so as long as you reflect everything that you can, it is seeded for both runners.
We're already at a 4 blue balls. I mean, Aga is not playing nice today.
Perhaps not the seed to be gambling on your RNG. We've finally won 1 coin flip out of 6.
And Aga is finally down at Kuchiri's side there. So we're gonna see what's on the pyramid once we're out of the fill here.
And it's not a guarantee that he will go to pod with those mitts and the hookshot. It is entirely possible to go north here and enter the West Dark World by hookshotting across the river.
Absolutely, and you know, making that play early could be pretty beneficial for them.
Looks like Palace of Darkness is a pendant. I think that was a Thieves Town crystal, and we had a map for Meyer, and I did not catch it.
Yeah, that was a very quick check, so I missed it as well, unfortunately. Hopefully when Vex goes into the Dark World, I'll be able to help out with that there.
But Kuchiri is going to take those 2 pod smalls and head directly for the Palace of Darkness.
My guess would be with the 2 that Kuchiri will probably forego the vanilla big key chest and probably go straight to the back, but then again, we'll have to see what the route they will take.
We could see a little divergence, although our runners seem to have, by and large, been inclined to do the same things, with the exception of that early fake flipper play by Vex.
Vex, please. You can't hit Aga.
But he really wants to.
He keeps doing it and he'll have no health.
The shooter room chest, just 20 bucks there, starting off for Kuchiri.
So it seems like Kuchiri is going to stay in logic, specifically in pod, and keep that first key and not mimic clip. Although we'll likely still have to open this door anyways.
About that staying in logic thing. Instead, looks like Kuchiri's going to take that extra key and head straight for the back.
Right, just as I suspected it. You know, we thought we were going to be in logic, and sure enough, I was wrong. Thank you, Kuchiri, for that. Oh, wow, and the hammer in the back of pod. Of course it is, right? The seed would not be that kind of seed without something like that.
That is exactly the kind of thing that you want to find when you take that one small key and head for the density instead of the logical check.
A great early find by Kuchiri. Let's see if Vex follows him into pod, and it doesn't look like he's going to. It looks like he's going to potentially go into the Village of Outcasts at this rate.
Has the glove, doesn't even want to use it to go to Catfish. Catfish is a bit of an out-of-the-way, slow kind of check. Hope you can loop it back in with boots later, or, you know, you find the flippers and you're going through the North Dark World making mirror checks and you go then. There are ways. Kuchiri checking out old Johnny Two Bombs, Speakeasy, and Tripe Cave Emporium finds the mitts a 300 a big key to Ganon's Tower. No GT big key search today. and then a little tripe at the back end. This is, as Radical Sniper is pointing out in chat, an interesting position for Kuchiri versus Vex, because Vex is unlikely to get that hammer in the near future, and without the mitts is not going to be able to do everything that he might want to do in the village. Well, Dark World routing has just gotten fairly free and easy on Kuchiri's side of things. If he can find a mirror, it'll really work out for him.
Yeah, looking like Vex starting a little bit behind here in terms of finding some things that are going to be super important for the Dark World access of things. But we'll see what happens as he goes through Village of Outcasts, and hopefully he'll find something of use there.
Yep, if you're a partisan for VeXtopher, what you're really hoping is that he finds another pod small and or maybe the pod big to kind of point him back in that direction. Seeing some more chatter in chat that maybe this is a bit of a suspicious seed given that we've got progression in Pendant Pod for Team It's Always Sunny in Pendant Pod. Well, you could look at it that way, or you could say that maybe Team It's Always Sunny in Pendant Pod is just trying to play up to their name and they happen to have been bailed out this time.
Speaking of Pendant Pod, I believe somebody from Radical Sniper's team may be a big fan of Pendant Pod, so shoutouts to Leoria for that.
That is definitely a play that Radical Sniper's teammate is a very big fan of, and it does seem to bail her out more often than it does not. Now, in the Village of Outcasts, Vex did find a Skullwood Small, and now we see him just moving on up into Skullwoods, making one of those uses of the Cane of Samari that I mentioned earlier, rather than pushing the statue in the middle. Going to go ahead and hold that block down with the cane, and now rummaging around in the front. Still does not seem to have found anything all that interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Skullwoods is holding anything really important, while Kuchiri over there gets another Turtle Rock Small.
The Turtle Rock Smalls coming in fast and furious here, although still no medallion, so not really going to be using them just yet.
It'll be interesting to see what Vex does next. So we've done Skullwoods. I'm not sure if it. I was just gone for a second, so I don't know if he's gone to Thieves Town yet. I hope that's his next play if he has not gone into Thieves Town.
No,
At
he
least to
has
the
not
first
yet
war.
had that dip into the front of Thieves, so I do believe we're going to see that front four of Thieves Town right now. Well, after he gets done playing tag with the thief.
This is why we don't let the thieves follow you. So our runners here doing similar things here. Kuchiri also doing the first four of Thieves Town here.
Normally, you would say that one of these first four has to be the big key to Thieves Town, but when you're playing a keys mode, that's not true. It just means that if you don't have it, you can't go to the back. So we'll have a couple of more options here, and then I think Vex is down to heading through that southern Dark World loop. Get the dig game out of the way, go visit Snuppy. That bow's the kind of thing that could point you towards Pod.
Ah, so the bow hopefully will make Vex go to Pod, and then he'll find his hammer. But then again, we're not sure, so we'll see what happens. It's so fun seeing the two Mega Man sprites and both of them dying at the exact same time with the same death animation.
That is always one of the fun things, seeing, what runners choose for their favored sprite, how all of the different death animations look, all the different bunny sprites. Let's see what the dig game has in store for us.
If I remember correctly, I don't think there was anything that Kuchiri found in the dig game, but we'll have to
Oh,
wait and
yeah,
see.
because he came up from the south because he had the mitts already. Yeah, it was a small key to something or other.
Turtle Rock, I think. Oh, Skullwood's small. Okay.
Some of the least interesting small keys in the game, particularly after you have one already. Now, Vex is your teammate. What do you think the danger level is of him finding the mitts and going to all of the possible mitts checks? Go have a look at the mire area, go up to Dark Mountain, instead of getting over to Pod with that bow in hand.
I will say it could very well happen. My hope is that though with the bow now that he would more likely push to Pod because of that, since that was one of the things he did find early in the Village of Outcasts, or a little bit later. So we'll just have to see what he does. I'm hoping that he pushes towards Pod for that reason, but we'll just have to see what happens.
That is always the danger of getting options. Sometimes you don't actually use them well. Have dueling save and quits here. Everybody heading to the mountain, going to visit the old man. Give him a little tap on the shoulder for good luck, and away they go.
Interesting while you see Kuchiri keep climbing over here, that we're going to see Vex go to the mire area here.
It is a quick couple of checks in the Mire Shack, a little old place where you can get 2 items. You can get the information on what medallion you're going to need to get into Misery Mire if you remember to do it. And he does. That looked like Bombos to me.
Yes, it was Bombos there. So we're gonna have to find Bombos and potentially another medallion, depending on what Turtle Rock will be.
Bottle on a ferry, and the final Skullwood Small. Now, Vex is walking back out, and now he realizes there's nothing else I can do here. I have no mirror. And I definitely don't have the Bombos medallion yet.
Now, even if he did have the Bombos medallion, you would think he would go in, but there's some other options he has as well. So we'll see what happens.
Given that the game has gone out of its way to hand you the big key for Mire already, I could see reasons why you might want to do it.
Oh, I'm with you. I agree. And Sick Kid giving us a whole lot of nothing, unfortunately. There's just 20 rupees.
Yeah, just the small child's lunch money for the week. That's not going to change anyone's fortunes, except maybe his.
And it looks like Turtle Rock is Quake from what Kuchiri found. So we'll have to find the 2 medallions there.
Well, Meyer's entry was not under the doormat. Let's see if Turtle Rocks is a little more accommodating.
Well, look at that. We've got the Meyer medallion in Hookshot Cave. So, you were on the right track, just maybe the wrong dungeon, GM.
Yeah, also, Kuchiri found in there the blue cane, which is going to make a Spike Cave play perfectly logical.
Well, logical in some sense where we have the ability to do, things with the hammer, but the hammer is still technically out of logic, I
Yeah,
believe.
still not going to find a pod small there, that's for sure.
Oh, and since
Oh,
I
we
missed it, they
also,
got the mirror, yeah,
yeah,
out of
neglected to mention that mirror there in Super Bunny. Good thing both runners have to go into the area, because otherwise we probably would have neglected it, although I noticed Kuchiri using it. I thought, oh, wait a minute, where did that come from? That's kind of funny.
Now it's going to be interesting to see if Kuchiri will Harapot, one of the newer tricks in our group of things found in this game. Oh, and the big key to Eastern Palace is actually in the Hera first, where the where the small key usually would be in vanilla.
And we are not going to see the Harapot play from Kuchiri. Now
Interesting.
has that bow
Interesting.
and that Eastern big key. I wonder, do we just see a play over to Eastern now?
I mean, that makes a lot of sense on the side of Kuchiri. Nothing. I mean, by no means is there anything wrong with that choice because of the fact of that Eastern big. Um, Curious to see if Vex will finish Tower of Hera.
As Kuchiri was walking north towards Eastern, I thought to myself, well, why wouldn't you just bring the Dark World with you just in case now that you have that mirror? And sure enough, he turned around and he's going to bring that play up. This way, if he happens to pull another pod small or two out of the play into Eastern Palace, he has more options.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense in this situation, especially with if you get two or three, if you get three pods. I mean, three pod smalls is very possible in Eastern. I mean, you never know what could happen. But even one pod small could change what or decide what Kuchiri does.
Vex also snagging that small key. Kuchiri going to go ahead and jump back into Palace of Darkness first. There is the drop-down chest here that he can still get to. I was mildly surprised when he left that behind on the first trip, but going to go ahead and pick it up now.
Oh wow, and it's our ice rod. So good thing that Kuchiri went back and got that.
One of those items that you are going to need every time in an all dungeon seed, and it's just laying around in the basement of Palace of Darkness. Meanwhile, Vex did perform the Harapot, found a full heart container on that middle level, does not have the big key, so cannot check the big chest at the moment.
I think at this moment his main concern right now is just to get the dungeon done, and then at some point when he has to come up for Turtle Rock and GT, and let's say he needs something specifically from Hera Basement or is looking for one thing, he can just grab it from there.
And this is also kind of nice from a routing perspective, going to pick up, well, a big key first off of Moldorm, the big key to Turtle Rock, and then this green pendant. You would have to think with that bow, the pod smalls, the eastern big, heading over towards the eastern area next makes a lot of sense for VeXtopher as well, and now he has a green pendant that he can turn in while he's in the area.
Absolutely agree, and I'm hoping that he does make this play because it makes sense in this situation. And instead, we're choosing to go back to Meyer area. Interesting.
Got the Bombos medallion on the mountain. You have the mirror, so you can also go check out Checkerboard Cave if you really want to. Seems to have a slight moment of indecision there, thinking, well, maybe I wanted to check Checkerboard Cave first, but no, here we go. Bombo's entry to Mire. And as our helpful tracker Scupula is pointing out in chat, there was no hair abasement from either runner, although they did have the small key and the lamp as a fire source.
My guess for our runners is that they know they have to climb the mountain again for Turtle Rock, at least once for Turtle Rock and for GC. So maybe their hope is that they won't need it, and then if they do, they at least have to make the mountain climb anyways, so it won't be that painful or detrimental to their routing.
And maybe it's also a thing where otherwise the only thing you have left up there would be the Hera Big Chest. If you have another check's worth of density up there, maybe it doesn't feel like quite so terrible a play.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So the early lead in terms of dungeons will be to VeXtopher. However, you know, Kuchiri has checked a few extra things than Vex has. So we'll see how that impacts the whole race.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some different things from our runners at this point. It's easy to forget because it was, 35 minutes ago, but Vex did do fake flippers into all of the overworld water checks that Kuchiri has still yet to do. So both runners have a little time that they can gain on the opposition if they choose not to make some of those checks that didn't pay out.
Vex unfortunately deciding to go left in this room and got himself caught with some slugs.
Yeah, bomb slugs not the kindest or gentlest enemies in the game, and on top of that there's that anti-fairy roaming around just making a nuisance of itself. It is not a nice room.
And on the vanilla big key chest of Eastern, we have the butter sword.
Butter sword will get the job done. That may be something of an advantage for Kuchiri when he makes it to, say, Vitreous.
I think at this stage, at least from Vex's standpoint, he doesn't necessarily need to have the butter sword, but it definitely is it is faster for the sake of killing those eyeballs.
Now, in Vex's defense, he definitely does have a bit of that NMG experience. Tempered Sword is very much a comfort level for this dungeon when you're running that, so I can't imagine that he's thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? I don't have the best possible sword. I have exactly the sword I expect to have.
Absolutely. Kuchiri having a little bit of trouble with those Armos Knights there. And then got the last one, so now we got our crystal here.
Cleans it up nicely and puts the first crystal on the board and ties that dungeon count back up. As with any key mode, you're not entirely surprised when you see a first crystal or first dungeon coming in around the 50-minute marker. You have to find a few keys so that you can go get the job done first.
Absolutely correct. And it looks like Kuchiri is doing some fake flippering here. I wonder if it's the play into ice. Very much a possibility here.
Yeah, Bombos Medallion for your melt source. You've got the hammer, you've got the red cane if you want to go the icebreaker way rather than having to deal with the old-fashioned Ice Palace bomb jump. Has a near miss with that Zora fireball. Yeah, you can find yourself very dead very quickly when you're fake flippering and take one hit. But as you surmised, here is the ice play from Kuchiri, and the cutscene chest over there in Mire for VeXtopher is just another 20 bucks.
Yeah, early in a seed, I really like this play from Kuchiri. I think the choice to go here early, if you can complete the dungeon, especially with that hammer in your hands, uh, so it makes a lot of sense here. The choice, absolutely. So we'll see what we find in ice here, while Vex is going to finish up Mire.
Yep, you've got big key and one small key, so you can pretty much route to your heart's content here. And the only thing that you really know is you're not going to find the flippers in here. That would be a logical impossibility, but plenty of other things that our runners still need, both keys and actual items.
Now going into 4-heart Vitreous here, I think Vex is going to have to be a little bit careful. He might use that cape to protect himself during that fight. But this is not exactly a easy fight by any means, so it'll be interesting to see what he does.
Yep, could use the cape, could use the cane, does have a fairy in a bottle. That was, I forget where exactly he picked that up, but I
I
do
believe that
recall
was
seeing him get
I
it.
believe that was Mire Shed.
Not sure what's in the other bottle at the moment, but when you have a fairy, you've got most of a full magic bar, and the cape doesn't really know how to drain properly when you're spamming your sword.
I think we have a red potion in the other bottle, so I think Vex feels pretty safe with this.
More than safe enough, puts a first crystal of his own on the board, and gains a 2-to-1 dungeon count lead, albeit however temporarily.
Well, and so Kuchiri has to be close as well. I don't think they have that. Oh, and the small key to swamp in ice is a very good find. Of course, needy flippers blocking the small key to that, so that makes sense here.
Yeah, not really a huge matter of concern, but once you have the flippers, you wonder, how quickly do I need to get in there, because I've had the rest of the care package for a little while now. Another one of the things that our runners have found in their travels is that Desert Palace Small. It looks like Vex, while he's in the area having cleared out Misery Mire, is going to go have the look at the couple of checks in the right side of Desert Palace.
Absolutely. And on Kuchiri's side, in ice, at the Freezor chest, we had the big key to pod, so that might bring Kuchiri back to pod potentially. We're not 100% sure yet. And there's another small key to pod in the right side of desert, so that'll help Vex maybe get to pod eventually. If we remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't think anything else that he found on this side of the world has really given him other options, so one would think that he's going to be heading in that direction fairly soon, unless Checkerboard Cave really gives him, I don't know, Quake to send him into... Well, he can't go into Turtle Rock because he doesn't have the hammer. I'm not sure. Maybe boots to make boots checks, but that's not going to take all that long.
No, I think that at this point, I think Vex needs to go into pod Eastern. I think he's got to be feeling like there's something that he's not seeing, so maybe he's going to go there. Although I wonder what he's doing here.
Well, he has no hammer, so he can't flute to 5. He hovered over 5 a couple of times and then realized that he couldn't do it. I'm pretty sure this is the Eastern Pod play.
Yes, correct.
He has to
Thank
come
you
at
for
it
the
in this
reminder.
direction with no hammer.
For the reminder, that's right. I forgot. I forgot he doesn't have the hammer because he hasn't gone into pod yet. Silly me.
That's why we've been waiting for him to go to pod for the last 25 minutes or so.
Nothing's worse than you as a teammate internally screaming, "Can you go to pod, please?"
Sure, but I have to flute to 4. But why? Because you want me to go there because that's where the hammer is, dingus. Here we go. Buttersword, Cold Stare. They seem to have gotten loose a little bit on Kuchiri, but Buttersword really puts Cold Stare in the corner.
Kuchiri successfully putting Cold Stare in that corner. And we get basically minus our pod big. We didn't get too much out of ice. That and the swamp small actually.
Yeah, Swamp Small probably the larger of those two, although of course you are going to need that pod big eventually. You do kind of want to clear all the dungeons after all.
So at this point, curiously, where our flippers could be, we're in a bit of an interesting situation where our flippers can't be in swamp, obviously, but they also can't be in the pod big chest. So, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting few choices our runners are gonna make here.
Yep, Vex coming in here with that additional small key. Yeah, he checks the first chest and he decides, you know what, let's go ahead and do the full clearable dungeon first.
That's understandable. I mean, I guess his thought is that you're you're hoping to find something that is helpful to your pod play. So hopefully that he after Eastern will continue into pod, and I don't see how you can't at this point. We're getting to very few low choices here.
Yep, really, it's probably the hope for maybe there's a pod small under the interdimensional doormat, going to be a little disappointed that it's a GT small instead, or maybe the pod big is in here. We know better, of course, but Vex doesn't.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned maybe it's a not a bad play to go in here, just because if you do get the pod big, great. You'd probably just go kill the boss immediately, and then if you find the hammer, which we know that it is in pod, and go from there.
Kuchiri going to get that next pod small off of the right side of desert. That is the additional one that Vex has had for a little while that Kuchiri has not.
Well, and that third small actually puts that hammer into logic there. So now we could safely say that everything is in logic from what I remember, if I remember correctly, except for Kuchiri's pod big and the swamp small.
Yep, the goodies he found in Ice Palace going to need to wait just a little while until the flippers appear. And it looks like Kuchiri is not quite ready for a play into Mire, maybe going to fill up on some potions here first.
Absolutely a great choice. If you feel like you need the safeties, absolutely take them. They're very quick to get, and if they help you in the long run, you know what? It's worth it. Always take it when you get it.
Rather spend the 10 seconds than the minute and a half running back down to Vitreous.
Well, and a reminder, without the boots, it feels like a lot longer to get down to Vitreous as well. So, yeah, definitely a smart choice by Kuchiri to take the safety early.
Yep, it's one thing to have that fairy and hope you don't have to use it, but when you have Safety Cane and the Butter Sword, you can just let your magic burn down and then let your health get a little low, and at that point, if you still don't have the boss down, well, Blue Potion does everything you want it to do.
Well, and a big reminder that Kuchiri doesn't have the cape either, so maybe they were thinking, hey, even though I have the blue cane, it might be better for me to just have a potion ahead of time, so that I don't have to worry about using and causing a lot of potential lag with the fight.
That's an entirely reasonable line of thinking. But as we are rolling over the hour mark and as our runners are kind of retracing each other's footsteps, they've been pretty much hot on each other's heels all seed at this point. probably a good time to remind you if you like the show they've been putting on for you to go ahead and follow these runners, both VeXtopher and Kuchiri. See a lot of rando if you watch both of them. Of course, Kuchiri you'll catch in the comms booth from time to time, and maybe if you need a match restreamed, you can dragoon Vex into doing that. He's a really nice guy.
And Vex as well will pull some double duty sometimes, and also you know, will calm as well. He's been getting into that a lot recently, and he's been doing a great job with it. Both of our runners having a bit of a struggle with the Eastern boss there, but thankfully both of them were able to kill the boss, no problem, and get that crystal.
Yep, that puts another dungeon clear on the board for Vex, raising the total to 3. Kuchiri is going to be hot on the heels of that here in just a couple of minutes, has a few more items to pull out of Misery Mire, and then we'll see a victorious kill over there. Vex gonna head into Pod, finally.
And this is very good for Vex. So he's got Hera. He's got Hera done, and by doing this, he's gonna basically be able to sort of get his. He's gonna get his hammer, and then it's gonna be a little bit easier to go into some spots, and sort of help his routing a little bit. Oh, Kuchiri taking an unfortunate death there to the Wizrobes. However, the fairy saving them today.
We say that the safeties are there to be used, but that's not really where you want to use it. That is kind of an unfortunate place to hug a Wizrobe.
Yeah, typically in this dungeon, as running, we would prefer to not have it happen there. But I will say during something like Pilot's Warrior, it's very possible to have that happen there. I may or may not have done that a couple times.
Vex, getting into the bow-locked side of Pod, finds the big key to Skull Woods, a location that has been cleared out as much as our runners otherwise could until they find the fire rod. Now there's one check just kinda hanging out over there waiting for them.
I'll be curious to see what is in the Skullwoods big chest when we do end up going back to it.
Vex seems to be eschewing the quick swap here just a little bit. Getting into the menu for a lot of one-item swaps.
Yeah, thankfully, so Vex has been very good at quick swapping throughout this seed. We've gotten a lot of help, ourselves from the mentor tournament. So, Vex being one of the most improved players of that whole tournament, definitely worth, getting taught all that.
And although we know he's only been playing for a few months now, he's going to show off a piece of tech that I definitely didn't learn in my first year of playing the game. Here we go with the good old-fashioned Palace of Darkness Hammer Yump.
Not an easy trick. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to struggle with it a little bit, but Vex making it look very easy.
My version of that always has about 5 times the menu buffers. Vex made that look very clean.
So nothing locked behind 6 pod keys, so we can safely say that we don't need to worry about that. I'll be curious to see where Vex does spend this other key, though. If he does spend the other key, I'd like to know what his plan with that is.
That's an interesting thing to wonder, and you might think maybe we just hang on to that for a little while, see if we don't find the big key, and then use it to go to the boss.
And that's what Vex is actually doing, is holding on to that small key. I actually do like that choice early, because of the fact that we don't know where some certain things are right now.
With the mirror in hand and the Aga kill, we do see Vex being put back on top of the pyramid.
And so we see that Skullwoods is a crystal, and then we have we knew that Thieves Town was the other red crystal.
Looks like we're having a little more indecision on Vex's side here. Considered Catfish has decided against it yet again. And
I think
Kuchiri is coming up on Vidi.
Yeah, I think he probably remembered about Graveyard Ledge. Mir hasn't really led to much yet, so he probably is hoping that this is going to be a helpful play.
Going to get that same kind of cape strat here on Kuchiri's side. Filled up the magic with the blue goo earlier, and then the sticks for phase 2. Going to even that dungeon count right back up, and of course it is a crystal lead for Kuchiri because one of those dungeons that Vex has cleared is Tower of Hera.
So Vex doing another piece of strategy here. Unfortunately, and missed it this first time. But looks like will eventually get it here.
Seems to have a little help. Throwing bombs into the water here, and the Hinox decides that it wants to come play.
So I actually have to question this play a little bit from Vex. I think knowing that you do have a way to get over there by doing this constantly, it's just adding to the time that you might think you could be potentially behind, especially since you were able to walk over there. But he does finally get the trick done.
Yeah, it's one of the more frustrating pieces of tech because you feel like it's so easy and you really shouldn't have that much trouble with it, and the more you miss it, the more frankly that it tilts you. I find Diver Down to be a very similar kind of thing.
Absolutely, I do believe it is very it's very much a frustrating trick when you don't get it the first time.
Kuchiri was going to bomb himself 1 pixel away from that screen transition, and then a helpful Zora shot him there instead, so he doesn't get to have the bomb back, but he did wind up where he wanted to be.
And it seems like Kuchiri's going to make the same fake flipper play that Vex did earlier.
So Vex is going to not wind up bleeding that time. We know that he didn't really find anything that lit his world on fire when he did this earlier, but Kuchiri now making these checks as well.
I'm wondering what Vex is going to do next. You know, our runners are in a bit of a situation where we don't have a lot of stuff. Vex will probably do some of the other checks. He might do Smith Chain now. Smith Chain Purple Chest might not be a bad idea. It seems like he's doing the Skullwoods Big Chest, which Kuchiri has not checked yet, I believe. So this could be helpful for him as well.
Could be some value here, and we are certainly arriving at that point where we need those flippers to kind of come into their own.
Ah, there we go. So we have the big key to Desert locked behind the big key of Skullwoods. Very mean, Seed. Very mean.
Seem to have another one of those momentary indecision points on Vex's side, but now going to go ahead and mirror Flute to 6, and we'll see what the Desert Palace Big Key leads to. Well, Kuchiri has finally grabbed hold of that mushroom and not going to go immediately turn it in. Oh, and this is why he's going to burn off all of his magic using the cape and come over here and say hello to the magic bat.
And this is this could be very helpful for Kuchiri. We'll see what they find through this, but you know what? This is a very great idea to fake powder and just see what happens, especially where they are at this point. If powder does lead to something, it could be very helpful for Kuchiri.
And even if not, it's one of those checks that you don't have to worry about later.
Unfortunately, the magic bat gives us a heart piece, which is not helpful in terms of regression, but I absolutely love the play by Kuchiri.
Likely to see that followed up pretty much immediately by the turn-in of the mushroom. It's not a bad time to do it. He did use that blue potion that he bought earlier in the Misery Mire, so it's a good time. Make this one check, stock up on potions as well. But interestingly enough, says no to that, going to walk back out and not pick up the 20, not pick up any additional potion, and flute immediately back to 3.
I do wonder if this is the big key to Skull Woods play. I don't know if I. There's not much left over, so we'll see. We'll see if this is it, and it looks like that is going to be the play by Kuchiri.
As you had mentioned earlier, he could opt for the Smith sequence play while he's in the area, although I think that we're likely to find that the lure of that Desert Palace Big is strong. Although it does not seem to have paid out in all that much. Vex picking up a heart off the boss, of course the crystal going to be required, but not really changing anything that our runners already knew about the world.
No, absolutely not. Now we're getting down to, what is the where's our last location?
And Vex may be thinking Smith sequence.
I mean, at this rate, they don't have a lot of, and our runners don't have a lot left, so I think it makes a lot of sense here. Vex can now do, if he chooses to, he can fake powder as well. So this makes sense, and I can see why that would be the case.
And there it is, the lure of the big key to Desert Palace. That pull, oh so strong, has lured in not just VeXtopher, but Kuchiri as well.
Hard to pass up a required dungeon. So when you get the big key, you just go and do it, right? Very much good choice by our runners here.
And we'll see long, slow hammer pegs from Vex here. Kuchiri did this earlier. I feel like it was a not important small key. Or maybe it was GT? Let's see, GT?
No,
Turtle
it was
Rock,
an
okay.
bit of an important key for Turtle Rock.
Yeah, we're still lacking the medallion that gets us in the door, unfortunately, so important eventually.
Now the question is, if you get Fire Rod off of this Smith chain, do you potentially go into Turtle Rock without the big key?
At the very least, if I get Fire Rod off of the Smith chain, I'm going to go knock out the back of Skull Woods first.
And like I thought, Vex here is just going to obliterate the magic and then fake powder.
And he's going to go at it in the more inefficient manner. The cape does use magic faster. The blue cane uses more magic on the initial startup, but after that it uses magic more slowly than the cape does. Kuchiri buttering up some Lanmolas here, going to get that full heart container and another crystal to add to his collection. That is 4 dungeons done for Kuchiri, all of them crystals. once again tying that dungeon count back up between our runners.
Absolutely. Now Vex again making the purple chest play here. I think at this point you have to, because you can pair it with Bombo's tablet and Cave 45, which I believe our runners have not done yet.
I believe you are correct. At the very least, we have Vex pulling the mirror out to be ready for whatever may be coming next. And as you surmised, Cave 45, another full heart container. Vex is going to say yes, please.
When it's free
Somehow,
like that, you take
yeah,
it.
somehow after an hour and 16 minutes, the game has still neglected to hand our runners a mail upgrade. So another heart to be carrying around for a little added safety does not hurt.
So at first I thought Kuchiri was going to go to the same thing Vex did, which was the Smith chain, but it seems like they are trading that for Graveyard Ledge here, which I believe Vex did, and it was only a compass.
It was definitely an item that Vex did not pick up, and speaking of items that Vex probably wishes he didn't have to pick up, there's another 20 bucks from the purple chest.
Well, on the plus side, they'll be rich at the end of the game. However, at this rate, we're looking at a very much close to last location for both of our runners here.
Bombs on the Bombos tablet. Oh, so close, game, and yet so far away. I do see in chat there our wonderful restreamer Pool Float asking first chest progression in Swamp? Well, not until we find flippers.
And at this rate, we're going to end up basically last locating them, because it doesn't look like our runners are going to find them anytime soon.
Vex going to go ahead and spend down a little money on potions. Kuchiri seems to be heading in a rather catfish-wordly direction.
So one of my thoughts of maybe where these flippers are, it is possible that the vanilla big key chest of pod could potentially give us flippers at this rate, because there's still a point where that chest is in logic. So we're at that situation where you might find them in there.
Entirely possible, although Vex seems to be looking at a couple of other spots that have been outstanding for our runners for a little while now. They do have Hera Basement, and neither of our runners decided they wanted anything to do with that at the time. And Spike Cave, now that those 3-pod smalls were in hand, the hammer logical, we could have progression hiding out in Spike Cave here as well.
A very good point there. Very, very good point. We're just coming up to the left. I call it the leftover checks that you never want to go to unless you're seriously in trouble.
Yep, all of those terrible one-offs that you've created for yourself either through your own decisions or the way the seed has laid all of the keys out for you. In this case, the Hera Basement was a choice by our runners. Well, let's see whether or not they're going to be punished for said choice.
I was a little surprised by that choice too, because especially with having the key early, you're kind of selling yourself that it's not going to be there. So you really are hoping that it is not there. And if you happen to miss it, you're in big trouble, right?
And it's kind of a hassle of a check to come back to. It is time consuming, but it's more time consuming when you have to climb the mountain again for it.
There we go. There's the flippers. We've been waiting for those. So Vex early advantage here for that. And that's a very good find for him, because now what's most likely going to happen is that, Vex will probably go to ice next. And then my hope will be a swamp after that. after Spike Cave, of course.
Yeah, he thinks about fluting away, he doesn't, then he flutes and has to dodge the duck as he reconsiders and is going to do Spike Cave after all. Meanwhile, Kuchiri is going to start getting the bad news about the Smith sequence, and, well, there's something else that our runners
Wow.
needed and could have had for a little while now, the big key to Thieves Town in Spike Cave.
Now that's a great. This is a great mountain climb for Vex. This is really nice in his part. He'll be able to do a couple more dungeons here, and that'll be very helpful for him. And it'll be a question of do you go Thieves Town with the small, or do you go to Ice now with everything available?
Hey, given everything that's available, my personal preference would be to do ice first. You kind of hope you run into that Thieves Town small before you get yourself into a position where, am I leaving behind yet another one of these one-off checks? It feels like every one-off check our runners have left behind the seed has come back to bite them.
I absolutely agree with you. I think you go Ice Palace first, which I think Vex is actually doing, which is I'm really happy about as his teammate. And I think that is the better play of the two right now. And then, get caught up a little bit, do Thieves Town, and hopefully that will set him up for some help.
Oh, and Kuchiri has flown away and left the purple chest behind. Let's see, did it actually remain where he left it? Yes, it did. Good.
A lucky break there from Kuchiri for sure. I've never seen that before. That's a first time. That's a first time for me there that somebody's left that there and then fluted away.
Yeah, it always gets a little dicey when you start leaving the purple chest behind places. You never quite are sure if you've left it somewhere that it's gonna stick for you or not.
And Vex showing off a great strat for that room. More or less a rando strat, but a very good one nonetheless. Throwing 2 bombs and then getting all 6 Pengators there. So very nice room by Vex.
And not only does it look swaggy, it's also fast.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's actually faster than many of the strats used in that room.
I think the only thing that's actually faster is to charge up your spin, get the first 4 with 1 spin and the last 2 with 1 bomb. There's a little less waiting involved.
Oh, and a really fast really fast icebreaker there by Vex. Very well executed there.
Exceptionally clean. Minulus just used the sword buffer to get your 1 pixel movements. Very nicely done.
See, Vex here is going to be in a really nice position where he can, he's going to get the swamp small and he's going to get the pod big, and then, you can start routing that in a little bit nicer. Now, Kuchiri here is going to do Hera Basement and probably into Spike Cave would be my guess, so because of that, it's going to be a little bit of time for Vex to catch up.
Yep, ice is one of the plays that Vex still needs that Kuchiri has already done, but by the same token, Vex has Tower of Hera done and has had for quite some time here, so...
Oh, and unfortunately, so Kuchiri decides to put off Hera Basement again, and understandably so because of, Spike Cave being, the further in logic, but is going to miss that big key to Thieves Town. Or wait, no, sorry.
This is the big key to Thieves Town.
This is the big key to Thieves Town. There's another key. Oh, the flippers. I'm sorry. Thank you. I know there was one of the two.
It's decidedly a key item, and when you have that Swamp Small in hand, it's one of those things that you really are hoping to find when you still have some things outstanding that you need to beat the game.
Absolutely. So it seems like because Kuchiri does not get the flippers there, they'll go to Thieves Town next, which is totally a fair play after getting the Thieves Town big. And then it'll be a question of when do they get back to Hera for that for those flippers.
And the other question's going to be, what does the back of Thieves Town pay out with? If the boots are here, maybe Kuchiri gets to have those for 10 minutes or so before Vex stumbles upon them.
Absolutely. I mean, and the boots are a big advantage when you do get them. So yeah, we'll see what is in the back of Thieves Town.
Yeah, the danger here, as mentioned in chat here, is that we still do not have any knowledge on where that Thieves Town small key is, so Kuchiri doing this for 3 checks and a dungeon clear. It is the other 5-6 crystal, so it's going to give him access to the Pyramid Fairy as well. But in return, entirely possible that he's leaving something else behind, making another one of these orphaned locations.
Absolutely, and you know this race is going to be kind of interesting in terms of the decision of when flippers will come up in on Kuchiri's side, because you know leaving those behind is a big deal with Swamp being available. So I wonder if Vex is going to go into Swamp before Thieves Town at this rate.
Well, we're going to get a stare at that flute screen for a minute and then the flute to 4. I think you may be right. We may have a swamp play on our hands.
And considering, you know, logically where you get the Swamp Small, this makes very much a lot of sense because of the fact that this is now the newest thing in Logic. So we're hoping that progression will be in Swamp Palace for that reason.
We have Kuchiri pulling another one of those GT smalls out of the attic of Thieves Town.
And of course, since we don't know what Swamp actually is, in terms of it's a pendant or a crystal, as our tracker Scupula has mentioned, if this is a pendant, we may potentially, with you know another pod small, could have the pedestal in Logic.
Well, as a point of technicality there, we would need to find the Tower of Hera Big Key. Vex definitely
Right.
sequence broke that.
I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we do need that, and it wouldn't surprise me if that Hera Big Key is actually in Swamp at this point. Speaking of another key to pod, there's another key to pod in the first chest of Swamp.
Imagine finding another small key to Palace of Darkness right where it ought to be.
Now I think Vex here, when he does do Swamp, typically likes to first go to the boss and then come back in for left side Swamp. And I think that makes a lot of sense in modes of Key Sanity, just because you know left side Swamp is going to be some guaranteed 2 items as opposed to maybe having dungeon items over there and non-Key Sanity. So this makes a lot of sense. Should he do that?
Yeah, going that direction, you can leverage the additional diver down to save yourself another good 10 or 15 seconds. Not a bad way to go about clearing the dungeon. Now, I missed the payout off of the blind clear there, but that is going to be both 5-6 crystals in hand for Kuchiri, and this almost has to be a Pyramid Fairy play.
I believe it was only 20 rupees. And so it seems like Vex is going to do the early left side Swamp choice. which is totally fine as well since he can dive her down.
And putting his bomb down early, making just as much lag as humanly possible.
Sometimes you get eager for the bomb, I get it.
You just have to stop worrying and love the bomb. Not gonna go that way, Vex. You have to get back to the swimming state first. That's the thing with Diver Down, you're technically walking around on the floor, so those blocks will happily block you if you are trying to walk around down there. You need to swim over the top of them.
Petition to have Vex please migrated to the A Link to the Past Randomizer League channel.
Well, you're his teammate. You can slip on over to his channel really quick and make sure it gets in there.
This is very true.
An Ice Palace and a Misery Mire small key are the reward for visiting Pyramid Fairy today. That's a bit unfortunate. And Vex finding the small key to Thieves in Left Side Swamp.
And this isn't so. This was what Vex, I believe, is hoping for, was to get that small key to Thieves Town so that he could clear the whole dungeon, and then you're not isolating the big chest from the already stuff that he probably feels like he already isolated.
And he feels that way because, surprise, he did.
Don't you sass me.
Oh, I thought I was sassing him, but here we are. You can feel how you like.
I'm just kidding. It's too much fun.
Now we have Kuchiri with yet another one of these return trips to Palace of Darkness. Palace of Darkness seems to be the gift that keeps on giving, or in this case, keeps on receiving. Visits from our runners today. Seems to be the place to be. Wonder if we're going to find yet another progression item locked away behind some more small keys or the big key.
Interesting thing here, though, is because Kuchiri wasn't able to get into Swamp. They only have a third pod small, so it'll be interesting to see what's blocking that. There's our big key to Tower of Hera. Yes, of course. So
yeah,
putting the pendant into logic.
There's that potential logical ped play.
So with that being the case, since we know that our Swamp Palace, thanks to the new update, that Swamp is a crystal in the top left corner for anybody who has never seen that before, you're going to see that because of that, that would make Turtle Rock the other pendant.
Yeah, and Pendant Turtle Rock is holding on to some requirements that we're otherwise going to need anyway. Fire Rod to get all the way through, theoretically. But, you know, that's just for killing the boss in this mode. Vex has all 4 small keys, so you can go run just as far as you want.
Vex doing the thing where you thought you were on the Fire Rod and you just happened to decide to let Bombos loose.
That is an interesting choice. That is a play you can make. That I've seen another friend of mine recently decide that he was going to go for the phase 2 quick kill and got the Fire Rod out, and when he started hitting Y, all you heard on stream was "Reneh, reneh." Insufficient magic to cast Fire Rod means you are not going to do the quick kill in phase 2.
And interestingly enough, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Kuchiri did scum that first key, or that key that they did have. So this is I do like that in this situation where, you know, checking something to see what it is and then saying, hey, forget it, it's nothing, we're leaving, and then going back and potentially maybe even killing the boss.
Yeah, less interested in blue mail than in getting the boss done. That makes a lot of sense to me.
On 14 hearts, yeah, that makes a lot of sense here.
now we have Vex heading for the back of Thieves. We will get one new check here that Kuchiri was unable to do because of that Thieves Town small over in left side swamp.
An interesting choice here by Kuchiri going to the vanilla big key chest now.
That's where the magic powder was, and
Once again, I believe we have a reset for a key to keep it. So I think we're throwing that powder away at this point.
yeah, one of the nicer safeties in the game, but again, the remaining pod smalls appear to be hiding from Kuchiri today, so going to have to hang on to what he has just in case that's the one he's going to wind up with to get to the boss at the end of the day.
And I think here now we're seeing the Hera play where unfortunately Kuchiri's gonna get a bit of the bad news here that that happened to be flippers.
The dangers of leaving behind Hera Basement realized more and more often these days, it seems.
Absolutely, and you know I think that's why Vex was so adamant on not going to Thieves Town until he had that Thieves Town small, right? You already feel like you last located something that was very early on, unfortunately. So at this stage, you know, waiting on that small made a lot of sense.
Now, it's still possible that it pays out in nothing, but I feel like we're once again kind of coming down to the end of possible locations. We need something to unlock our next little slug of progression here. So I would not be at all surprised to find either the Quake Medallion or the Fire Rod in here. Maybe even the boots. That gives us a couple of spots. But it's 10 sticks.
And at this rate, I think you know, Vex's best choice is probably going to be go to Pyramid Fairy since you'll get that 5/6, and then probably go back to Pod at this point because he's got 5 keys versus Kuchiri is 3.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of the possible outcomes of those keys, but Vex is in a position where he can check everything else in there, having performed that hammer jump to save himself a key over on the left-hand side of the back. And there is the bad news for Kuchiri, the flippers in Hera Basement. We should see pretty much a beeline to Swamp Palace here, I would expect.
That looks exactly like it's going to be the case. So I think early advantage to or new advantage to Vex here for you know just happening to clear some things efficiently and able to stay basically able to stay in logic to get those and then get to those flippers sooner than Kuchiri did.
That does seem to be the way this has gone. Vex has managed to try to hold down the double dips of areas just a little more. The Hera play bit them both, but has been able, by and large, to hang on to the items that he needs just long enough to get into dungeons and spend as little time there as he can get away with. As he heads back to 4, this will be the Pyramid Fairy turn-in almost assuredly, and Kuchiri, as we surmised, is going to go ahead and drain the dam. We'll get into Swamp Palace and we'll start finding things that he needs to make the seed go forward again.
Now I'm not sure if you know how Kuchiri feels. Does he feel behind? Does he feel ahead? Do we see potential skip of left side swamp at this stage of the game? I don't think so, but it's also a very popular thing that a lot of runners like to do.
Yeah, he's like us. He's a rando player. Of course he feels behind. that is the default
Very, very
mindset for
true.
any rando player.
I do agree. I don't think there's been many times I feel ahead in seeds. So, I understand probably feeling behind, especially after getting those flippers where they were.
If you God route, you feel like, yeah, my opponent did this too, and maybe they're executing better than me. And if you don't God route, you think, well, I made all of these mistakes, but my opponent sure didn't, so he's 20 minutes ahead, or she's 20 minutes ahead, or they're 20 minutes ahead. If you're playing a big group race, maybe all of them are 20 minutes ahead. And here we are, you guessed it, everybody, another trip to Palace of Darkness. It's
Well, at this
almost like our runners are the Ice Rod and Palace of Darkness is Turtle Rock.
Well, unfortunately, at this stage of the this stage of the seed, there's not really much that our runners are really going to find anywhere else in the overworld because they've cleared a good chunk of the overworld. So at this point, Pod seems to be the only play to make right now. Oh, we see Kuchiri here trying to go quicker to the boss. Unfortunately, forgetting that we do need a key for that.
Yeah, there are a surprising number of keys in here. It's just that most of them are under pots, so sometimes you can just kind of forget about them a little bit.
Now, the good news for Vex here is that because he did hammer yump, and he probably will do it again for the big chest, he's able to save that pod key there, and shouldn't have too many issues with full clearing this dungeon. On Kuchiri's side, I'm not sure if he's waiting for another couple pod smalls, which he will find in Swamp if he does go to left side. But we'll see how they route through Palace of Darkness when they do eventually go back.
And we do see Kuchiri getting a little bullied here in Paper Cut Dungeon. Had been down to 1 heart, but again, that's what those safeties are for. They're there to be used. Ah, the map of this dungeon. Thanks, game. Never could have done it without you.
Always helpful to get that, right? And of course there's a pod key in Pod. Why would there not be a pod key in this dungeon?
That seems like a thematically appropriate place for one to be. And you have to wonder on Kuchiri's side, seeing that Tower of Hera big in the waterfall chest, if he's thinking, oh no, not again.
At this stage of the game, it is starting to feel a lot like that, right? Like you already last located one thing, and now you're trying to you're gonna have the same thing potentially happen, in the Tower of Hera big.
Of course, that's one that you were not really going to get around because the play is take your Tower of Hera small and your lamp and go up and get your flippers so that you can come all the way down to Swamp Palace to get your Tower of Hera big. So if there is something in there, it is a required double dip.
Yeah, Seed is the Seed's being very, 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 very mean so far with that. Some of those unfortunate logic sequences that we have right now.
And from Kuchiri's perspective, there's actually a little density up there because if you'll recall, he did not perform Herapot. So in addition to the big chest, there's also the boss and what is that? Is that compass or map that's in the same room as big chest?
I don't remember. I don't believe it was anything of super importance, at least.
Yeah, what I was trying to get at was it's whatever's in there in the vanilla version of that location. But yeah, I don't recall that particular item being anything really meaningful. It might have been a heart. That might be where Vex's extra heart came from.
Yeah, you might be right. And thank you to our tracker for letting us know the map chest is in the second floor, and then the compass is in the top. So yeah, the compass chest.
And we do have Kuchiri coming back in for left side swamp. Did take down Argus, couple of butter spins, gets the job done. That is a good 6 dungeons done for Kuchiri. And we have VeXtopher fighting the Helmasaur King. This will be some new information. Also going to be his 8th dungeon once he completes it.
So on Helmasaur here, we see we're going to get some bombs. So at this point, do we feel like that it's possible that the Hera Big Chest, I don't know if there's much left over in the overworld. Could that be the answer to everything?
It really is starting to feel that way, isn't it? And that seems like exactly the kind of runaround the seed has been expecting of our runners ever since the beginning. We're an hour and 46, almost 47 minutes in, and yeah, still no sign of the fire rod, still no sign of the quake medallion, still no sign of the boots.
Yeah, seeds without the boots for this long, are just they're. I wouldn't say they're necessarily tough to route with, but it's just things just go so much slower. So, and a lot of top runners are big fans of the boots. It's what helps with execution. So, hopefully we'll find them at some point through the seed.
Alright, there's Kuchiri finding the Thieves Small and the Pod Small. Finishing up that clear Swamp Palace. Going to see another Harapot from Vex here is going to try to get lined up in time, and does, just barely, and that mini Moldorm comes back to play at the last possible second, but the explosion gets it, or maybe it was the hook shot, I'm not sure.
Yeah, not 100% sure there. It looked a lot like the bomb got it, but yeah, we'll see. And there's the fire rod as figured. So, unfortunately, the seed is definitely giving us a little bit of a runaround here.
Yeah, you take that to get your fire rod after you found your flippers in the basement and got that big key out of Swamp Palace so that you can have your fire rod and go to the back of Skull Woods where you probably find your Quake Medallion for Go Mode.
At this rate, with the fire rod being really realistically the only thing that progresses the game after getting the Hera big key, yeah, I think that's going to be what the decision is and where it's going to be at this rate.
I mean, we do still have the shovel outstanding, so we could have a little bit of a fetch quest chain left where we do something like boots back here to shovel a boots check to Quake Medallion, but at the end of the day, we're really coming down on the last possible locations for whatever the item is going to be that kicks off the chain that ends all of this madness.
And it's funny because early on it looked like Kuchiri was getting a nice lead, feeling comfortable, and then those flippers really put a wrench into things.
Yeah, they really put a wrench into things for both of our runners. Vex just managed to get back there a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. Both runners just happened to skip Hera Basement at the time when they did go up there, and sure enough, that seemed to be the unfortunate miss for both of them. It just happened to be that Vex was able to find them first.
And there we are, the Hyrule Castle Small. Now all of the Hyrule Castle silliness can be officially scratched off as logical. our runners really found anything in the key-locked portions of that were all that terrible from the logical perspective, but here we are at this late date, we finally know we don't have to worry about it.
And our first look at Moth here, and we're going to see what we get off of the Moth kill here. Me and DM. What did we talk about? It seems like we got a shovel play.
I will say that, you know, as we wait out a couple of cutscenes here, you're always welcome to drop by the Mindium School of Warlockery and Sorcery to see how you too can divine the locations of some of these ridiculous and trolly items.
The other interesting thing that this final crystal does is it actually puts us in GT mode. Puts Vex in GT mode. So Vex is going to check this shovel and then likely is going to go, I would suspect, into GT because at this rate, Quake could be in GT.
That is entirely possible, given that it's a pendant dungeon, then we could just have a medallion hiding out in Ganon's tower. Doesn't even necessarily have to be in the basement, it could be up on the climb somewhere.
You're absolutely correct, and so we got a blue boomer out of the dig spot. So it seems like the play next is potentially going to be GT, and it looks like Vex is going to be doing that next.
An hour and 52 minutes to find your first boomerang. Well, there you go. Kuchiri, of course, wailing away on the Helmasaur King, finally knocks the mask off 17 hits and then a couple of butter sword slashes to get the job done. Blue Male doing a little work there as he did get down to 2 hearts, but more than enough to get the job done. The Helmasaur King explodes, carrying more explosives. You may have to wonder how those did not go off in all of the rest of that madness, but here we are, blue pendant on the table for Kuchiri at 153. Alright, now, what is VeXtopher doing? He's heading towards Tower of Hera without the Dark World. You have left something behind, Vex. You are going to need that if you do desire to enter Ganon's Tower. That one thing is not one of the 7 crystals. It's not anything that you might need to clear the tower once you're in there, although boots may still technically be on the table. It is that Dark World access.
And I have a feeling that Kuchiri is going to look at doing the Thieves Town at Big Chest. So that's the unfortunate thing about not waiting for the Thieves Town Small is that we're gonna have to walk all the way back there to look to see if the Thieves Town Big Chest has the progression, which unfortunately we do know that it does not.
It's one of those situations that Vex has maybe tried to save himself from after the somewhat earlier shenanigans regarding the chest in the basement of Tower of Hera, that fire-locked chest.
I mean, and very understandable in that situation with how the flippers played out for them. It maybe just was Vex trying to play a bit safer so that he did not have the same issue for sure. And Kuchiri trying to get dungeons clear just happened to leave it this time. So we'll see what happens in GT here with Vex getting in here.
We did see some bombs on the torch, so we're not looking for boots to get our Quake medallion, but we are still looking for that Quake medallion. The Ether medallion appears the wrong medallion.
But very nice for a quick kill of those of those enemies there, so very nice.
Certainly a medallion with its uses, particularly in Ganon's tower. And it looks like Kuchiri is back on the right track, heading towards Tower of Hera. I do wonder about this a little bit versus making that play for the Thieves Town Big Chest, given that there is the 3 items of density up here versus the 1 down on the lower world for him.
I think maybe at this point you start to wonder if how many mistakes is there a possibility I've made a couple of mistakes, so how do I mitigate what's the best thing that is going to be available to let me win, I guess. And there's our Quake medallion. So Vex is in go mode.
Official 100% go mode, except no substitutes at 1 hour 56 minutes and 50 seconds.
Vex there maybe thinking he had the Cane of Burna on, well, instead tried to lay a block down in front of the Lionels, and unfortunately that wasn't very effective.
The Lions do not tend to care all that much about the Samaria block. And that is one of those dangers of using Quick Swap. That's not really the worst possible danger. Trying to get at either the bow or the magic cape and hitting Y in the middle of them is a little more devastating in some cases. Accidental mirroring out of dungeons has been known to happen every now and then. You'll see a Moldorm kill from Kuchiri here very shortly. Shouldn't take all that long. The Butter Sword absolutely puts paid to the worm.
Absolutely agree there.
You don't even really need to spin unless you want to. A couple of slashes with butter will do the job.
Ah, yes, I forgot. That's where I was wondering that if that's where our Turtle Rock Big was. So, because Vex did do Harapod earlier, in some ways it actually helped him. I guess I wouldn't say helped him, but in this case, his routing it worked out for him.
It was one less thing that he really needed to worry about, but even if he hadn't Harapoded earlier, in the situation where you're coming up and you're going to go to GT and Tower of Hera sitting right there, it's just a quick mirror over and you can wipe the dungeon out pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to like stop myself and be like, wait a second. I don't know if it actually helped him. It just happened to, in some sense, work for him. And Vex, you're not even going to bother looking for anything at this rate, which, very possible you could find the boots along the way. But in this instance, no reason to be looking. Just going to try and finish these dungeons as fast as possible.
As nice a quality of life item as boots are for the climb, the time you would spend looking for them at this point is time that you may think, after all the up and down the mountain that this seed 100% required of you, maybe you don't have that time to give anymore.
I absolutely agree with you. I think this is the right choice by Vex to just continue through the dungeon and just, go as quickly as possible at this point to finish these dungeons off. We'll see where he ends up in terms of timing at the end of this. But nice that they had Aga Tower done earlier as well. So no Aga Tower after GT.
And we do have Kuchiri trying to clean up a couple of one-off checks here. Went and turned in that green pendant. Now going to show us what the hobo had under the bridge, which Vex checked with a fake flipper long, long ago. It's been something like an hour and 45 minutes now that I sit here and look at the clock. We've passed the 2-hour mark.
You know, that's how seeds like these go. Sometimes you start watching and you're going, wait a second, are we at this stage now?
Indeed we are. Normally
Vex
I try and
getting
do these things at the 1-hour mark, but here we are at the 2-hour mark. So once again, if you've been enjoying the couple of hours worth of show that these runners have been putting on for you this evening, go ahead and give them a follow. Both Vex and Kuchiri putting themselves out there for your enjoyment on this a Thursday evening. I must say that I've been entertained. We've been getting our money's worth, most assuredly.
Oh yeah, this has been an excellent race to watch. You know, the diversions early on, the choices, very much so a very interesting race to watch.
And now, with nothing else that he needs to find, it is just time for a little climb here. GT Big Key been in hand for quite a while now. All Vex has to do is go running up the tower as quickly as possible.
Good. Sort of the nice part about you know, keys is that when you do get the GT, when you have the GT Big in hand for so long, you can just forget almost everything except for in this case, you know, we had situations where, you know, we had an item in GT, but if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have to even search for anything in GT.
Just that quick GT mode check. As long as you find the Quake medallion over there on the left-hand side, you are good to go. And Kuchiri has been given an unfortunate free ride back to the front of the dungeon. The Wall Master is not cooperating.
An unfortunate thing happening there to Kuchiri. You know, just one of the side effects of getting hit from the spike and getting you know, knocked into that wall master there.
Now, Vex in that 2 red Zazak room was trying to show off a bit of NMG strat where you walk into the room with downright held and fire off an arrow to kind of preclude some of the bad possible RNGs from that first Zazak. But the second half of that trick really only works if you have the boots so that you can dash down to the second one, so he had to go into scramble mode a little bit afterwards.
I had a good little laugh about that because as I'm watching the trick be done, I'm like, hang on a second. Doesn't that require something specific?
Yes, yes it does. Kuchiri sees a full magic decanter off of that hard hat beetle and says, yes, absolutely, I'll take that before the moth fight. If nothing else, it'll speed up the refill after I win. Moth seems to be sticking to the ceiling a little bit there, but Buttersword eventually gets the job done.
Yeah, with the moth down, I'm sure Kuchiri probably looks at that shovel and thinks, once again, another thing.
Thinks here we go again, but no, in this case that is 7 crystals, so the last thing that he is looking for to finish this seed off is over on the left side of GT Basement. It appears that Vex wants to have a few checks up here as he heads on towards the Aga 2 fight. Maybe silvers appear. Boots not really meaningful. You've done all of the things now that would really change. It's the climb that takes so much work. You don't really want or need the boots for the Aga 2 fight or the Ganon fight. Unless you want to show off and play dash strats, I guess.
Of course, the map of GT is in the validation chest. Very a very important thing you might need, so you can now figure out where you are in the dungeon, right?
I know I've climbed all this way, but where am I? Vex going to walk right up and say hello to Agatu, who's giving us a not entirely unfriendly pattern, but Vex only manages to pull one hit out of it. Followed by a very unfriendly pattern that he still manages to pull one hit out of.
Oh, and almost got the second there. Unfortunately, Aga was just a touch out of the way for that.
Seem to be doing a lot of singletons, but this one looks pretty nice. There you go. Finish it
There
up
we
with a
go,
double.
Vex. So Vex finishing up Aga 2. Now we're going to be getting the chance to get Ganon and eat some bacon.
One of the advantages of having to do Aga 1 early, you're not going to see that mirror over to the light world for a last minute clear of Aga 1 before you get to face off with the pig. No, it's just Vex versus the pig. In 3, 2, 1, we will say hi, Ganon. The Enrichment Center would like to remind you that the companion duck will not betray you and, in fact, cannot speak.
Wait, your duck doesn't speak to you? I'm confused.
As Vex pushes on through Phase 2 into Phase 3, Kuchiri is heading over to open Ganon's tower. Still going to have to rummage around for that Quake medallion for a little while. It's always a little interesting to me to see how runners want to play around with Phase 3. Some people will see how many swipes they can get in, others will position themselves at points in the room they want to be. Looks like Vex falls into the chop Ganon just as much as you possibly can crowd.
So Vex there showing off that that first spin that he gets. Oh, and he has an unfortunate fall on Ganon there.
That was entirely too greedy by Vex. Wanted to be in position to light that torch again, and instead decided that the pig was for hugging.
Yeah, unfortunate for Vex there. Would have been better for him to just back off a little bit of that torch so that fire bat wasn't in the way. Unfortunately, that fire bat did get in the way a little bit. Vex dropping in, gonna try again.
Yeah, he can't possibly know that he has some time to give here, but he has some time to give here. As Kuchiri is going to go ahead and have a look at Tile Room, which was just in sticks today.
And to be fair, by Kuchiri's side, going to right side of GT here does totally make sense and not a crazy play, especially if you likely feel behind at this point. I'm not sure if he does or not, but definitely something to consider there.
And I missed it the first time, but Ganon asks the question, did you find the arrows in Turtle Rock? No, Ganon, we go-moted Turtle Rock just as quickly as we possibly could.
Now Vex showing off some of that, some of those triples there.
Yep, just have to wait out a few more spins here. There's Kuchiri finding wrong medallion, and of course the 10 bomb pack was in there as well. Piece of Heart does not raise his total to 17.
And there's the Ganon kill from VeXtopher. So get your GGs in chat for Vex. You know, great job by him to finish up this seed here.
Alright, that is Vex crossing the bridge. That 2 hour, 11 minute, 11 second time is going to take the race. Good game.
We'll hopefully be able to get our runners in for a post-game interview. And we'll be able to discuss with some things with them about the seed. We shall see if we can get them.
We are, in fact, joined by the victor of this match, VeXtopher. Good game to you.
Yeah, GG's, Vex.
My D-pad hates me.
Well, let's start with the. So, I have to imagine when you went back up to Hera Basement after leaving it the first time. I can imagine. What were your thoughts as soon as you got those flippers?
Well, I knew it was gonna happen. I'm pretty sure. I knew there was gonna be something there. When I left, I was like, I just screwed myself because I Hera potted, and I was like, oh yeah, I got the small key. I'll just leave the big chest. And then I said, okay, whatever. And so I left. And I was meaning to come back in and do basement, and I just forgot. And so whenever their flippers were there, I was like, great, this is wonderful. And then obviously I went and did Spike Cave and got Thieves Big, and I was like, you know what? Not doing this. I'm gonna make sure I have the Thieves small key if I can. So I cleared Ice, and then I cleared Swamp. Like full
I know
clear.
we're in the middle of the interview, but if we can pause for just a second, Kuchiri is expressing a certain amount of displeasure with the location of that Quake medallion.
Which, by the way, is a very fair reaction to that Quake medallion.
Yeah, not happy. I mean, Argus got a nice Bombos from me. Like, just, hey, Argus, welcome to Bombos.
Did you just think you were on the fire rod at that point? And
No, I was on the
automate-
ice rod, and at that point, I was really tired and really annoyed because I didn't have boots, and it was like an hour 45 into the dang seed, and I was like, all right. And then I Bombos Argus, and then I fall on Ganon in the phase 4 because I was just so done.
That's fun. That's the nature of this mode. Sometimes you just gotta grind it out because it is a very tough mode when you're thinking no boots, no missing some things. So still GG's to you though. That's a tough seed to get through.
Yeah, it solidified my absolute hatred of key sanity. Just 80 keys. I hate it. It's so bad. Like Kabuki Hundro, like something like that. Like give us boots to start. Just make it open key sanity boots, all dungeons, and I'll be happy. But like when you get a seed like this, you're just running around for 2 hours pumping on your D-pad. Like it's just not fun.
Particularly when the seed wants to do something like give you the Hera small key and the lamp, so you can go up there and get your flippers so that you can go down and get your Hera big key out of Swamp Palace so you can continue the chain.
And then just give you absolutely everything you need to full clear Mire and not give you anything at all, period, out of all of Mire. That was fun. I thought I had a small key, so it was really slow because I didn't recognize that I didn't have a small key. So I had to do it the long way.
Yeah, the nice thing in the end, once you so once you got the Quake medallion, thankfully for this seed, it was in a nicer spot of GT versus on the climb. So when you get to go mode, at that point, are you feeling behind? Are you feeling ahead? What were you thinking during that?
I just wanted it to be over. Like honestly, I was so without boots. I was just so not enjoying myself after about the like hour 50 mark or an hour 45 or so with no boots. It really just gets draining on you. And I'm like, maybe I'll find boots in GT, and at least I won't have to do my climb in bootsless. And no, I've had to climb bootsless, which went pretty well actually. It's a pretty good gauntlet with no boots.
We did see your 2 red Zazak room, by the way.
Oh yeah, I kind of got beamed into him. It was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice implementation at the start of the strat, but you do need the boots for the second half.
I know. I I arrowed him, and then I was like, well, this isn't gonna work. I still don't have boots. It's like muscle memory now. I just did all the things, and it's just bleh. Like even just like the spike room right before the cannonball room, like the cannonball Z room, like it's just annoying without boots. And then hook shotting the dang guards on the bridges, also kind of annoying. I don't know. Bootsless. I'm just annoyed I didn't have boots.
All things considered, a 211 with no real big movement minus the hook shot, hard to feel bad about it, I guess. I know it was a bit of a mess with those flippers, but you did get there before Kuchiri did. So I think that was the big turning point for you, is that Kuchiri did it quite a bit later. So
I had literally nothing left. I had completely cleared the seed other than Spike Cave and Air Basement. I even fake powdered and turned in the mushroom. So I had literally nothing left except for Hera Basement, and I was like, well, hard last locating that, and then into hard last locating the fire rod.
It was kind of hard last location the seed, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then you go into pod and you basically when I went into pod, at least I basically last located the hammer. Pod was the only thing I had left that I could get anything in.
I was internally screaming for you to go to pod. Of course, you don't know where the hammer's in there, but internally screaming to go.
Well, I was waiting on the bow, and then I got the bow. I don't remember where the bow was. Oh, it was the 4th chest at Thieves Town. And then I was like, okay, this is good. I'll just take my loot down the South Dark World. And then that gave me, I got myths and Hype Cave and things. And so I was like, all right, I'll just go up the mountain now and check all these checks, see if I get hammer or something. And I went back up the mountain and got the Eastern Big Key. And then I was like, all right, that's good at least. And so I went with the Eastern Big Key, and I was able to at least full clear Eastern Palace when I first did pod, which didn't feel as bad. And then I got the hammer, and I was like, okay, well, now I have a bunch of hammer checks. But they really kind of, I didn't have flippers, so Ice Palace and Swamp were out of logic. Like as far as I knew. But yeah, no. If I would have just hit Hera, I think me and Kuchiri were talking in the race room. Honestly, if we would have just done Hera Basement when we were first up there, like the seed would have been a lot faster. Still no boots, but it would have been a lot faster.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts to wrap this one up with, other than your continued ongoing hatred of the 80 keys mode?
Just add entrances. I'm ready for cross keys. I love cross keys. I don't know. It takes the key sanity concept and it just makes it more of a puzzle, even more of a puzzle than just 80 keys. And yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel as bad without boots whenever every entrance is randomized and you have to check them all anyways.
Yeah, very true there. That'll be coming in week 5. So for, just to give everybody a heads up, for the Rando Babies, they will have JKLL in the next coming week, which I imagine could potentially be a very tough match for both teams. So, we'll see what happens in those 2 races. And then I'm not 100% sure who is Always Sunny and Pendant Pod has next week, but Kaz Boots week will be an interesting week to see what happens here. But I think we can wrap things up here. Once again, if you really enjoyed the entertainment here, follow our racers, VeXtopher and the Kuchiri. I want to give a shout out, of course, to my co-commentator, Mia and DM. Thank you for joining me at the last minute. I appreciate it very much. And of course, a shout out to our tracker Scupula and our restreamer Pool Float. And I also got the heads up that so It's Always Sunny at Pendant Pod will be playing Papega Patrol in week 3 for casual boots.
Should be some really interesting matches coming up. Of course, there's plenty more week 2 action ahead on the schedule. You can go over to ALTTPRleague.com and find out more, find out who all's racing. I guarantee there are more races being restreamed places this evening, and for the remainder of the week, there are a bunch of matches that still have to happen. We can expect to find plenty of hype. If you need your rando needs met for the week, League has you covered.
Absolutely. I mean, this we've got a couple league channels, a variety of restream channels you could see all the action on, especially this week with Fad Keys. So, me and DM, once again, thank you very much for joining me in this race. And GG's again to Vex and the Kuchiri.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Thanks to all the crew. It's a good time. I'm sure it was kind of fun watching us run around, walk around.
Good game once again to both of our runners. Aaron, it has been a pleasure. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I'd be
Everybody
happy
out
to.
there in Chatland, I hope everybody enjoyed a couple of hours of Fad Keys action on your Thursday evening. League will be back in the future, both on the League channels and everywhere else that it's getting restreamed. It seems like you're going to stumble upon it just about everywhere these days. But for now, this has been a presentation of the Link to the Past Randomizer Open League Season 4 between Rando Babies represented by VeXtopher and It's Always Sunny in Pendant Pod represented by Kuchiri. With that, I believe our work here is indeed done. Aaron, if you have final thoughts, now is the time.
I think I got all my final thoughts out, BNDM. Thank you again, and everybody, hope you will come by and see us again. And happy randoing.
Have a wonderful rest of your night, everybody.